On this episode, dear listener, I'm going to be talking to a new friend of mine, and she's written a romantic suspense story that I know you're going to enjoy. One thing about justice, it can be a bit elusive. And when you have family secrets, let me tell you, those secrets run deep. And we all have been in that position where we're looking to find answers to both justice and to secrets. But they're all going to collide today in a lethal standoff. Coming up next, right here on The Right Stuff. Hi, and welcome to The Right Stuff. I'm the Queen, Parker J. Thank you so much for joining me. Today, we're going to be talking to my guest co-host and contributor today, Diane Mills. She is the author of the romantic suspense story, Lethal Standoff. It is hot off the press, so make sure you go ahead and pick up your copy today. You can pre-order it before September 3rd, or if you're hearing this after September 3rd, go ahead and pick up your copy, available wherever books are sold. We all like to pretend that we're detectives and forensic investigators, and we have shows like CSI, NCIS, Law and Order, all to help us think that we could solve the crime if your life was at stake or if someone you knew was at stake as well. We'll talk about it in just a few moments. As always, I want to thank our Patreon team for their support. We have been showcasing Christian authors worldwide for the past 11 years, and as God gives us grace, we'll continue to do so. If you want to help out, go to patreon.com/rightstuff. To stay up to date with PJC Media, go to pjcmedia.net. Click the pink follow button. You'll never miss a show. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at PJC Media for updates, uploads, and more. Go ahead, subscribe today. And lastly, I want to thank you all for your support of my elusive Amish sweetheart. It's available exclusively on Amazon.com. And so without further ado, I'm going to bring our guests on board. Diane, how you doing?
I am doing great. This is an honor. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your show.
And thank you for being with me today. I never take it lightly because you could be doing something else completely and you decide to spend your time with us here on Right Stuff. Never take it lightly. And not only that, you wrote a great book. I can't wait for our listeners to just dig into it. But as always, I always want to peel back the veil and see who you are as a writer. So in your own words, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I live in sunny Houston, the home of heat, humidity, Harleys. There's no H word to describe allergies this time of year, but I've got all those too. My husband and I are empty nesters. We have grandkids, and we do the grandkid thing, but I want to tell you this. My grandson said to me once, he said, Mimi, you're not like any of my friends' grandmas. You are totally different. And I took that as a compliment. I just thought, no, I don't ever want to be like every other person. I am a little eccentric because I'm a writer. You already know that. And so we look at life a little differently. We can be a little bizarre in some of the things that we say and do. And there are those who say, oh, she probably ought to be on meds. And they might be right, but then why take it away from our creativity? So I love story. I believe that every person in the universe has a story, and I want to hear it. And I might just want to write it.
Do you think writers are born or are writers bred?
Both, but they are definitely called. And that makes a difference. My mother used to say that when I was a little girl, she would paddle me for lying, and I told her later on, and now I get paid for it. But the truth of the matter is, I believe we're called. And if God calls us, He is going to show us how to get the tools that we need to do His will. I don't take that lightly any more than if I was called into the medical field or, heaven forbid, balancing your checkbook, which I cannot do. But what I want to say is, more importantly, is to follow God in obedience. What is it? I forget the passage. in the Old Testament that says obedience is better than sacrifice.
Yeah, that was Samuel to King Saul when he was acting up, and right before the Lord sent the Spirit to agitate his mind, and David had to play the music to calm him down. As writers, we are often dictated by the story itself. Characters are talking to you, and they won't get out of your head. You may think of an event, and that event becomes the plot, and then the plot begins to develop that way. And that goes to my question about your own journey. How did that begin?
It began, and I'm going to be very, very transparent here. My mother had a lot of mental issues. And sometimes she could be a bit strange in what she was saying or doing or demanding. And I could look at her as a little girl. I could give her the attention she demanded. But in my head, I was making up a story. And I knew then God's given me this ability so that I can make it through this tough time. And I never forgot that. But I never had the confidence to do anything with my writing until years later. Back in 96, my husband said to me, "Stop telling me that someday you're going to be a writer and someday you're going to write a book. Just quit your job. I'll give you 1 year to get anything published. If you get anything published, you don't ever have to go back to your other job." Well, they say dynamite comes in small packages. Right. And I said, okay, I will. And I did. And I wrote a lot of articles and devotions, and those were published, and I sold a book. And Lethal Standoff is book number 93. So my words to all of you writers out there, I just gave you a challenge. You've got to begin sometime. You don't want to one day say, "I only wish I had tried." Now is the time.
Can't help but resonate with what you said, because we are usually our own barrier to our own success.
Absolutely.
There may be valid reasons for that. And some statistic I heard many years ago said, what keeps people from writing a book? It could be fear of rejection. It could be fear of actually writing the book. It could be financial situations, health, external circumstances. But in all things considered, it's us that is stopping ourselves. And most of my listeners already know it took me 10 years to write and finish and publish my first book. And now here I am, years later, interviewing people from all over the world who have similar thoughts and views like I do about writing. And one thing I like about your story is that it's very evocative, and your writing style flows so naturally. And it's great when people tell you that. I know what it's like to sit there and go, what am I going to write next? They're talking about something. You just start making up words, and then you have to delete it all. And then I hate the editing part. I hate editing. My poor editors, let them do it. I hate editing. But I do like the writing of it. And so we have here your book, Lethal Standoff, which is a novel about family secrets and about justice and so many other things too. Now, I have to ask you, are you Jessica Fletcher, or are you Olivia Benson when it comes to your make-believe murder mystery, suspense thrill type of thing? Which one are you?
Well, I have to say I'm Diane Mills, and I am a seat-of-the-pants writer. Mm-hmm. But before I begin, I complete around 14, 15 pages of a characterization sketch. In fact, if any of your listeners would like a copy of it, all they have to do is email me at Diane, DIANN, at DianeMills.com, and I would be happy to send it to you. And then, please personalize it for how your brain works. But I love to read. I love to read my favorite authors while I'm writing because they challenge me. Wow, I was so engrossed in this story. Why am I so engrossed? Why didn't I see that coming? Or, whoa, you really got me that time. And so I want to analyze what they did. And then I'm thinking, okay, how can I, in my voice, accomplish a wow moment for my readers? And I love the challenge, and I don't even mind editing. I really don't.
You're better than me.
Yeah, at the present, I'm down to 7 chapters of text to voice before I send it to my husband, who is my best cheerleader and nightmare editor. And so that's my final process. So I really don't mind that at all. But as to say who I am, I guess I'm Diane Mills. And while I'm in that character's shoes, I am that character. And that's what I love. I know you do too. That's what I love about writing, is that we can be anyone we want to be. We can take on opinions and thoughts and habits and gestures and body language and history and all of those things and just be that person. It's so fun. And it also helps us understand the behavior of the people around us. I just love behavior and psychology and the crazy things that we people can do.
That's what I think a lot of authors like. We're people watchers, and we are observers of human nature. Now, I tend to be a unicorn in the author world because I'm an extrovert, because generally speaking, most authors are introverts. They're better at speaking the words than they are, writing the words and speaking the words. As a matter of fact, if they're in a group of people, if you have a lot of introverted authors around, they'll sit down with each other and write, right? But talking may be a whole other thing, so, unless the creative energy is flowing. So we have your book here, Lethal Standoff. And one thing I loved about this story was just, it's kind of rapid. A lot of things that happen very quickly. We get to know our characters through their own viewpoints as well as things that are happening in the novel. So it's very much a character-driven, but there is a lot of plot-driven aspects of the book to you. It has to be with a kind of romantic suspense. And then when I found out that she was a hostage negotiator, first one I thought about was Negotiator, the Negotiator with Samuel L. Jackson from back in the day. And was like, I would hate to be in her shoes because, I don't think I could get the release of anybody because I would probably talk their heads off. But she is a hostage negotiator named Carrington Reed. And what's happening when we first meet her, she's in a high octane situation, right? And so it goes from there. But before I do that, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody, so we're going to try to make sure we don't spoil anything. But if we have to spoil little tiny little breadcrumbs, we're not talking the whole slice of bread. Just let Hansel and Gretel find the breadcrumbs, So Let's go ahead and talk about Lethal Standoff. What is this story about?
This is about a hostage negotiator who is committed to making sure everyone is released unharmed, including the one holding those hostage. That is an aspect of negotiating I found very interesting. And the research that I did with that and in talking to various negotiators, I found this common thread in their personality. Whether they were Christian or not, they cared about people and they cared about good outcomes. So I wanted to weave that in with the motivation. Why did she choose that career? What happened in her life for her to make that decision? So while she's wrestling through her personal needs, then I bring in my hero, a famous journalist who is known for being incredibly honest and fair. And we all know that media often gets criticized for writing only what their audience wants to hear and things of that nature. And that's not him. If you don't like what he writes, don't read it. And that's kind of true of all of us. But what is tearing him apart is that he converted from an Orthodox Jewish family, very strict Orthodox, to a Messianic Jew. And his family shunned him. So I guess that's the best word to say to describe that. In fact, they had a funeral for him. So while he's struggling with following his faith, following Jesus, making new friends that become family, he's very, very torn and concerned about the fact that his family will not reunite with him. So you take those two different types of personalities, strong, committed to what they're doing, and you toss them into a mud pit, a pig pen, if you will. And because I write by the seat of my pants, I want to watch them victorious with what they do best. I want to see them make mistakes, and how do they recover? I want them to entertain the reader, inspire them, encourage them, motivate them to be better people. All of that underlined while I'm hoping that they forget about time and place while reading this story. I want them to forget about picking up the kids from school, going back to work after reading over lunch, burn dinner. I don't care. Just forget about what you're doing. Stay up all night. In fact, I love those emails, don't you? How could you do that to me?
Yeah.
My goal is to show real people in real situations. We live in a dangerous and an unpredictable world. All we have to do is flip off of this wonderful podcast and see what the latest news is. I want to show that there are people who are trained, people who are willing, people who want this place, this world, to be a better place. And I also want to show at least one character in my story solves their problems from a Christian worldview. I want to show the honest doubts. I want to show the honest confusion. I want to show the honest, how could you do that, God, if you're a good God? I want to show all of those things so that it resembles life. I guess I could talk forever.
But you make a good point because, and this is something I've said a lot, don't believe Christian fiction is always safe fiction. I don't believe that it's always meant to be so wholesome that we don't deal with real life issues.
Right.
Or sometimes the characters are Mary Sue characters who don't make mistakes. They don't struggle with faith. I think we sometimes do our fiction a disservice when we don't include real situations that people have. People who truly do have grievances against people of faith, who really do have issues with some of the things that God tells us to do. I think it's okay for us to explore that in our fiction. And there's so many different ways to do that. And in a situation like this, where you're in the middle of a very high-pressured, high-stakes issue, like a hostage situation, these things are going to collide together. Because first thing you're thinking of is, why did these guys take these people? First thing you start thinking of, what happened today? And you would hate to be the person caught up in the middle of it, right?
Yeah.
I would hate to be going to the bank and next thing you know, and I always believe, and this is just me, and I was talking to an author who likes The Walking Dead, and he's like, well, I would be this character, or I'll be this character. And I said, I would think I would be dead body number one. That's what I don't think I have that survival instinct. I don't know. You tend to find out these things when you're in certain situations. Like you find a lot about yourself when you're actually there. And I hope I never have to find out.
Yeah, I don't want to find that.
Apocalypse, right?
Me
Keep that off
either.
to the future, and so I like that you deal with these things and you deal with the real issues of the heart and real issues of faith and real issues that deal with people locked and mistreated and hurt by other people. Because, and people say this all the time, hurt people hurt people.
Yes, absolutely. And you know very well, I tackled a tough subject, a very controversial subject, and I was not about, in any way, shape, or form, going to get on a bandwagon about how I felt about undocumented immigrants. That is not anyone's purpose in telling a story. I wanted to show real people in the middle and different opinions and different thoughts and both sides of the story.
We've lost the art of conversation and the art of discourse because we're so anchored down to my own point of view that we forget that critical thinking skills are needed to actually think things through. If something is wrong with a situation, instead of shutting down the argument, you talked about it. And I like how, I forgot where I heard it from. It was probably a YouTube short or somebody. I can't remember who said it, but they were like, the moment you stop talking is when war happens. The moment you stop talking is when violence happens. The moment you stop talking is when things go bad. That's like the nuclear option. That's why they have, again, negotiations, which is sort of the themes that's going on here in Lethal Standoff. Now, when it comes to Carrington, Carrington's an interesting character. I even love her name. I loved her name. As soon as I said, I like this. I love this. I love her name. Like, what's motivation behind this? Like, and again, don't give away too many spoilers, but what is it that makes her tick that she would want to do this job? Like, if you had told me, hey, Parker, you could be a hostage negotiator, and I'd be like, no, thank you. Right? That would be me. But what's going on with her?
With Carrington, she's carrying a lot of guilt. And so, as it happens with some individuals who carry a lot of guilt, they think by doing that they are going to find healing with that guilt. And until they face it honestly, it will continue to plague them. It wouldn't matter how many cases that Carrington successfully negotiated. She'd still have that guilt until she dealt with it.
This is one of my favorite questions I like to ask. What character did you love to hate? And what character did you hate, love?
The character that I really, really cared about and kept making such stupid mistakes was the older brother, who did horrible things out of a misguided love, out of hurt, out of family dysfunction. He felt he was right. And there is that saying that bad people do bad things because they believe they're right.
Yeah.
So I would say that character, and the one that I wished I could dislike, but I couldn't because I loved him so much, was the son.
Oh yeah. I'm dear listener, when you get your copy of Lethal Standoff, there's so much going on in this story. And I want you to get a taste of this right now. So Diane is going to read an excerpt. So go ahead, Diane, set up the excerpt. I'm going to mute myself, and you go ahead and take it away.
Chapter 1 of Lethal Standoff happens in September. The first point of view is Carrington. My role as a hostage negotiator often plunged me into the evil designs of the human mind. I embraced the responsibility and possible danger because it's my identity, a one-woman battlefront determined to free others from victimization. The challenge excited me, but fear of failure stalked me, and respect for human life was my constant companion. Too often, innocent lives depended on my ability to negotiate their safe release without anyone getting hurt. The demands, rewards, and sometimes the defeats with tragic outcomes kept me awake at night. How could I have done things differently? My apprenticeship began when I was 8 years old, but thinking about those days didn't change the past. Right now, lives were in jeopardy. I'd driven 10 minutes out from a critical situation on a Wednesday afternoon when my cell phone rang. My contact, a detective from the Houston Police Department, had spent several hours talking to an angry man who held his wife and son hostage. "Carrington, we have the information you requested," Detective Aaron Peters said. "The man inside the home is the owner, Nick Henderson, age 35, married to Christine. He's holding his wife and 8-year-old son at gunpoint. Yesterday, he was served divorce papers, and we believe this is in retaliation. Hurt, rejected, probably a lit stick of dynamite. You talked to him from the outside?" "We've routed his calls through a mobile command center. I tried talking to him, got nowhere. He hung up on me." Aaron blew out his frustration. "Domestic calls were the most dangerous, often violent, causing me to appreciate my Kevlar vest. I had a handgun in my purse, but I could count on one hand the times I pulled it. Never used it." "All right, I'm nearly there. SWAT in place?" "Yes, 2 have clear shots. Not an action I want to take unless necessary." "Me either. What are Henderson's demands?" "Just to leave him alone or he'll pull the trigger on his family." Cool, calm focus settled on me. My ability to mediate critical discussions depended on my wearing emotional blinders to the outside world. When did the problem start? The wife phoned 911 at 8 a.m. today. I don't know how long he was there before she reached out to us. We've been called here twice in the past month for the domestic abuse. I glanced at my watch, and it neared 4 p.m. Have HPD negotiators been talking to him? Yes. Henderson hung up on them too. He's drinking, slurring his words, seems to have trouble concentrating. Oh, alcohol could make him more volatile. Flashing lights appeared on the residential street ahead. "I'm parking now. Give me 5 minutes. I'm standing beside my car in front of the house." "Aaron, do you have Henderson's work history?" "Fired from Home Depot 3 months ago, where he held a management role. They walked him out of the store in front of his employees." The man definitely had nothing to lose.
So, dear listener, I know you were invigorated by that excerpt. You are going to love this romantic suspense story by Diane Mills, Lethal Standoff, available wherever books are sold. Now, Diane, in the few moments we have left, I always want to give you, our guests, an opportunity to encourage the authors out there whom God has given the gift to write to pick up the pen and do so. So go ahead and encourage them out there today.
I'm challenging you to begin now. If you feel that nudge, you feel that calling, do so. And you know what? It's just like any other art, any other craft. If you were called to play the piano, you'll have to take a few lessons. If you're called to dance, you've got to take a few lessons. If you were called to be a bookkeeper, you've got to have a little education. So get started now. Start learning. And whatever you learn about the craft, don't hold it inside. Share it with someone else. Get into a writing group and be a part of that group. Participate. Don't just be a taker. So that that next generation of writers will be so much better than what we are. And that's what we want. We are all in a ministry. We are in a ministry called writing, bringing the art of written communication to the world. So I want you to be better than me. I want your book sales to outdo me. I want to one day say in eternity with you, You go, girl. You did it. You go, guy. You did it. I heard someone say once that heaven has a huge warehouse filled with books that were never written and never published. I don't want to find your book there. I don't want to find my book there. I want that warehouse to be empty. And I think you do too. If there is any help that I can give you, any questions that you might have, feel free to email me. And I gave that email address earlier, but it's very simple. It's Diann, Diann, at DiannMills.com. And I will get back with you and do my best to answer your questions.
Can't think of a better way to end our show today, Diann. It's been lovely talking to you today, and I cannot wait to have you back and have you back real soon.
That's exciting. Thank you, Parker. Love it.
And we were talking today to Diann Mills. She is the author of the romantic suspense novel Lethal Standoff, available wherever books are sold. One thing that I really enjoyed that Diann said is, begin now. We often wait until later. We're going to do it later. And listen to me, dear listener, you're talking to someone who has a PhD in procrastination. I thoroughly understand what it's like to procrastinate, to always put off. If you begin now, you don't have to wait until later. You can go ahead, pick up the pen, and write stuff. Thank you so much for joining me for this edition of The Right Stuff. I'm the Queen, Parker J., and you have a wonderful, glorious, blessed day.